Hello guys, this is Anthony once again, and I'm back again with another video. And today I'm going to be talking about the cybersecurity roadmap for 2025, how to break into cybersecurity in this skill-based space, evolving market, as it were. This is a continuation of some of the videos that I've done on cybersecurity. So if you haven't had the opportunity to watch them, go back on my channel and you'd see some good videos on cybersecurity. And also feel free to subscribe. Like I said, every single week we have a video or two coming your way on cybersecurity, project management, or data analysis. So let's get straight into it. Cybersecurity roadmap. Okay. Now, why is it hard to get into cybersecurity? Before we talk about how to get into cybersecurity, you've got to understand that you're coming into a space that, quite honestly, is very, very challenging. It's very hard. And it's important that you appreciate what you're getting into. Cybersecurity is not an entry-level role. It's a very challenging domain. And the reason why it's hard to learn is because, firstly, you need knowledge across multiple domains, right? You need to understand networking and cryptography. You need to understand endpoint security. You need to understand Linux. You need to understand quite a plethora of core skills. By the way, I've done a video on this, why it's very difficult to learn the cybersecurity. It's somewhere on my channel, so feel free to go and have a look at it. Skill-based market is problem solving. You need to know the skills. You need to practice a lot to know how to navigate yourself. You have to have an understanding of some of the tools, etc., etc. And it's a world where experience trumps theory, right? Real world practice matters. Um, Also, it's vast and it's constantly changing. It's high stakes, right? Cybersecurity, one mistake can be very, very detrimental to what is the organization's ability to protect its data, and loss of data has so many ramifications and implications on how they can work. So you've got to understand what's happening here, right? Cybersecurity is very hard to learn. If you want to get in there, have that at the back of your mind that it requires quite a lot. It's difficult to learn. Now, also, why is it difficult to get a job in cybersecurity? Well, because there's high stakes, employers generally have high expectations for hands-on skills, right? You need to know what you are doing. It's not an entry-level role where you can come in with some theoretical concepts and do well. You need to know how to solve problems. You need to know how to navigate yourself, maybe on PowerShell, on Linux, navigate yourself with Python, automate, how to basically solve problems, right? Employers want proven experience, not just certifications. I have many of my friends that, hire people or put a job out there. And then when people come in and they're looking to sort of vet them, you give them some type of work, and it's very difficult for them to actually, demonstrate it because they have the certifications, but they just can't actually determine whether or not they can do the job. Many applicants, but few are truly prepared for real world scenarios, right? Cybersecurity problems are complex and require critical thinking, lack of practical projects and portfolios from many beginners. Communication and teamwork skills are often underestimated but crucial. Difficulty standing out without a mentor or clear planning path. So cybersecurity is very difficult. I believe that there's still a lot of work. The problem is that, people don't know how to do the job. I mean, I always say that even for you to understand the kind of projects that you are doing in cybersecurity, you need to have a whole, broad understanding of the cybersecurity concepts to know what it is that you're kind of solving in terms of problems and stuff, right? So it's hard to learn, and it's also hard to get a job in there. That's the first two main things that you need to take up, be aware of. Now, what's the conventional learning path? Well, let's assume you're a young person, young lady, young guy out there, you're in your teens and you want to get into cybersecurity. The conventional path here would be you go to school and you get an internship, maybe university, and you get an internship in one of the organizations, and then you eventually come out and you have the skills and the knowledge and the practice to show that you've been in that space. That's, you have all the time in the world. You're a teenager, you're starting out with life. Or you get into the apprenticeship route, right, while studying at school. And this is something that this is something that most people are doing because they don't want to probably go to university. They get an apprenticeship, they get into some type of school, and then eventually they come out with both the practice and the theory. Or your family members are into cybersecurity and you get a job there and you start out sort of learning the basics, as it were. But this is really like the ideal situation where you knew about cybersecurity at the early stages and you wanted to get into cybersecurity. So you did it, right? You started very early and you sort of went through the channels. You didn't have to sort of go through anything cumbersome or difficult. But that's not the case for most people, right? Most people that are getting into cybersecurity typically are coming from a background where they are quite established in one domain. They've been working in maybe one sector, manufacturing, or they're probably taxi drivers, whatever the case might be. And then eventually they want to transition into cybersecurity, right? They don't have all the time in the world. They probably have children. They have this, they have that. You know, their life is sort of set in a certain way, and they're not at the beginning stages of their life. And these people, the conventional advice today for them would be, if they had some time to get into the cybersecurity space, would be to start with an entry level IT role, just get the fundamentals of IT, maybe IT support, whatever the case might be. If they can eventually sort of move on to become some sysadmin and get some foundational sort of core technical skills. And then from there, move on to entry level roles, SOC analyst, NOC analyst, pen testing is a little bit advanced, but the point is that you're sort of following that sequential gradual process. In the process of, getting into one role after another, you sort of get certifications, right? Maybe a CompTIA, Security Plus, A Plus, et cetera, and then you proceed from there. Again, these are for people that have all the have all the time, have some time, because entry level roles, foundationally, you're probably going to need like 6 months to a year to be able to really do what you want to do here. And then when you look at these roles here, again, you have to have the right context for you to find a job, et cetera, et cetera. And you're probably going from one particular income, maybe on 60, 70, 80,000, 100,000, then you have to go all the way down to maybe some 30,000 or 40,000, and then begin sort of the journey, as it were. So this has its own pros and cons in terms of what is possible, et cetera, et cetera. But I think, if you find yourself in this particular situation where you're transitioning from one particular domain, you know what you want to get into cybersecurity, you are coming from a different background, then I think the first major point you need to do is to take a personality test. Yes. I honestly believe that cybersecurity is not cut out for everybody, right? If you don't have certain qualities as a person, I don't think you should get into cybersecurity. What are these qualities? We're going to look at it in a second, but the point is that whether or not you go to, you go for, you start out with some going to school and getting some type of internship or apprenticeship, or you come through the IT support role and then cybersecurity entry level role, you need to know whether you're cut out for cybersecurity. And how do you know that? Well, you got to be somebody that is curious and analytical. You love asking why, you want to know why things work, how they work, et cetera, et cetera. You got to be detail oriented. You've got to be persistent and resilient. You've got to be ethically strong as an individual, have some core, skill sets. You've got to be a lifelong learner. Cybersecurity is constantly changing. And then you've got to be a good communicator and team player. There are some fundamental skills that is required for you to do well in cybersecurity. Right? You've got to be very persistent and resilient. And yes, you can't. I've already established that cybersecurity is very difficult to learn. There's so much that you need to learn. So if you're not persistent, you're not resilient, you're not curious, you're not somebody that's detail oriented, you may have some difficulties in doing well in cybersecurity. Now, what next? Now that you've established the cybersecurity is for you, what next? Well, then the next thing to do is to either go through the conventional route, part B that we just listed, right? So you basically go through the IT support job, then you go into the other ones, the entry level roles for cybersecurity, you get some certifications, and then eventually you proceed from there. Or like what most people do, they'll find an academy, right? And the academy is supposed to provide them with the training, the instructions, and the sort of the enabling environment for them to learn both the theory and the practice. And this is where most people find themselves, right? If you can do the first one, go for it, right? Go for it and do it, right? Um, 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 but You need to understand that you need to have some obsession with your learning. You need to be curious and constantly keep learning. You have to be committed to doing by practice, daily practice. I am a firm believer that if you start out cybersecurity and you're not consistently sort of learning on a day-to-day basis, you are not going to ultimately do well, right? You can use ChatGPT to create some simulative environments, right? Or enterprise scenarios and build several portfolio projects. A lot of YouTube videos will guide you through some of these things. So you really don't have an excuse, but there is an attitude. And I'll talk a little bit about the mindset for success in cybersecurity. If you're going through getting a career, in a career in cybersecurity and you're going through some type of academy or school or tutoring school, as it were, there is a requirement for you to honestly be very intentional about it. And that's really what I want to talk about here. You've got to be very intentional. You've got to be proactive and go beyond what is being taught in the class and constantly keep researching. There's so much to learn that you can't, if you leave things till late, you're going to have problems, right? Research company specific scenarios, and then you practice until you know what you are doing. You can't say being taught, people going to cybersecurity academies and they just feel like the teacher is teaching them and they will become the expert because the teacher is teaching them. That's not how cybersecurity works. Cybersecurity, somebody is instructing you, you are being guided, but you have to take on the helm of leadership, as it were, to sort of move in that direction. The mindset, you've got to be patient with yourself. Very, very patient with yourself. Get comfortable with frustration, right? Get comfortable with it. That's why I said do a personality test. If you're not resilient, if you're not persistent, don't go into cybersecurity, right? Don't go into cybersecurity at all. You've got to be somebody that celebrates small wins. You don't understand Linux in its full, but you understand how to change into a directory. That's enough for the day. Move on to something else, right? You've got to celebrate small, small wins, right? Because it allows you to ultimately now be able to eat the full pie. Get involved with a community online, community offline, communities, and then stay consistent even when it feels tough. This is the mindset. So if you say the roadmap for cybersecurity in 2025, there are many things. I've talked about the conventional ways. If you have all the time in the world, if you're transitioning, I've talked about also the fact that if you're transitioning from somewhere to into cybersecurity, you can go through the sort of IT job, etc., etc. But you can get into an academy. Is also part of the plan. Whichever plan you choose, you need these things for you to be successful. You need it. You need it for you to be successful. Right? Now, let's now look at a proper plan that I've put together for yourself. First, like I said, assess yourself, personality test, your interest, your passion, whether or not you are cut out for cybersecurity. Number two, find a mentor or a learning guide, somebody that will help you. This can be in the form of an individual or an institution. You don't know what you don't know. There are people that say, can I go on YouTube to watch cybersecurity videos? The reality is you don't know what you don't know, right? And you can't protect what you don't understand. Join an intense hands-on program, right? Whether it's an institution, whether it's a boot camp, whatever it is, make sure that you've joined some type of program that you're being guided and instructed on what you do. Now, learn daily and build a project of real world projects, right? Learn daily and build a project of real world projects. There's so much to learn. You might probably not start working on cybersecurity projects. Maybe you just need to work on some type of IT project at the beginning. If you give yourself the time necessary, you're going to sort of gradually keep building. But you have to have a curiosity that is constantly asking different questions, different questions all the time. Simulate different job scenarios, right? SOC scenarios, network scenarios, pen testing scenarios, cloud scenarios, engage with communities, join challenges, and I'll look at it in a second. And then apply for roles when you're truly ready. Now, this part is the reason why most people say you need to go and get some job experiences. And it's fair. If you haven't seen anything in real life, you probably don't know what it is. But not everybody has the capacity and the opportunity to do so. The point is that the only way you can do this is if you, right? The only way you can sort of solve this problem is to use artificial intelligence, you watch a bit of videos, and you are intentional about practicing on a day-to-day basis, right? So this is very, very important. Now, what are the things you're going to be learning? Well, these are the fundamentals: Linux, Bash, PowerShell, networking, Git fundamentals, basic Python, cloud computing, cybersecurity fundamentals. Let me say this: 95% of the roles in cybersecurity are technical in nature and will require you to have an understanding of some of these roles, some of these concepts. Sorry. If you go into the non-technical roles like your sales, your GRC, you still need to have a good understanding of how it works at some degree. Now, this is so important. This is so important here. Okay, this is so important. These are some of the things that you'll be learning from a theoretical perspective. Also, from a practical perspective, you need to have an idea of how this works. These are some of the things you need to know. Now, in doing this, in learning this, now you move on to maybe some hands-on labs, try hack me, hack the box, Podswigger. Why is this important? Because hiring managers love proof of skills and not just theory. Right. So once you are going through those theoretical stuff, you also need to basically be practicing and doing different sort of challenges on some of these platforms. And you now can go into the other part, which is your certifications. CompTIA Security Plus, Network Plus is very well entry-level sets that are respected. Google Cybersecurity, I have these ones. They are all very, very good. And then, of course, TryHackMe has different badges at the level, the different challenges that So at entry level, these are some of the basics that you should have, And then once you now have the theory and the practice, and you've practiced over a period of time, you can move on to the final touches, which is to make sure that your resume is intact, your LinkedIn is actively working, and then you are actively applying consistently. I am a firm believer that you have to apply both quantity and quality. You're looking at roles where you can apply quite a lot of numbers, you put in a lot of numbers, and you're looking at roles where you can put in also quality applications. Final thoughts. Cybersecurity isn't about theory alone. It's about skills, mindset, and persistence. Build, break, fix, learn, and repeat. Stay curious, stay consistent, stay connected. Thank you very much, guys. All the best. Bye-bye.